Welcome to Mountains Made Low, where we help our listeners to encounter the love of God and live well in the modern world. I'm Dennis Mueller.
And I'm Christine Reagan.
Well, it's going to be interesting today because we don't have this professional room that we work in. And I am looking out the
Don't let people know that.
I'm looking out the window now, and there is a big semi-truck out there with this huge, massive bulldozer that's getting ready to plow snow in our lot. So
we picked the perfect times.
I know, so I don't know.
The school kids are sometimes out there screaming their heads off.
You can hear the backup things now, so Forgive us if there is any background noise.
If you thought this was a professional exercise for us, think again.
We do the best we can with what little we have.
I'm also eating pizza and have a soda right here. I mean,
right.
This is about as loose as it could get.
On today's episode, we're going to talk about the life of...
No, don't say who it is. Don't
bury
the lead.
We're going to talk about the life of a saint.
Oh, okay.
And historically speaking, the region where we live out here on the East Coast is really the cradle of Catholic education in the U.S.
It's also the cradle of American civilization, would you say?
Well, sure. I mean, the colonies, everything, yeah. But for those of us here in Philadelphia and the surrounding dioceses, like you think about big dioceses like New York and Baltimore, when we think of the main figures in the establishment of Catholic education, I think the two most prominent figures that come to mind are probably St. John Newman and St. Catherine Drexel, right?
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Right. But there's another...
And both have a Philadelphia connection, too.
Yes, yeah, especially here in Philadelphia. But there's another figure who's a little less known and easily forgotten about.
Yeah. So before there were Catholic schools across America, there was a young Episcopalian mother in New York who was searching for truth. She is the first American-born saint.
Yeah.
She was a wife, she was a mother, she was a convert, she was a widow, and she was the founder of her own religious order.
Talk about a busy life.
A foundress.
But talk about a busy life. Holy
Yeah,
Jesus.
she did everything. And so because of all the connections that she has, all the different things that she experienced and dealt with in her life, so many people can find good company in her heavenly friendship and her intercession. And she is...
Elizabeth Ann Seton. Today we're going to share the story about her quiet faith helped to build the Catholic Church here in the United States.
Yeah. So let's start with a little bit of her early life. I mean, obviously we're going to talk mostly about her holiness, but what led her to the fact that she has a shrine down in Maryland. Have you ever visited?
I have
too.
Yeah. It's
only one time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shrine. It's
it
very
really is.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Ann Bailey was born on August 28th, 1774 in New York City.
And for those history buffs that are out there, Elizabeth grew up during the time of the American Revolution. Like I don't really make that connection when you
could have been in Hamilton.
When you hear this. But she was about 2 when the British captured New York City, and her entire early childhood was spent growing up under martial law until the British withdrew from the city in 1783.
I don't know if there's a connection here, but I wonder if that's where, well, her parents were very strong Episcopalians, but I wonder what her Episcopalian association did for her at that time because of the British and everything.
Well, and the fact that the profession of her father, being a doctor, probably was very... They probably didn't have a lot of hardship being under occupation and everything.
Sure, yeah.
So at least we don't hear about it.
No. She was raised in an Episcopalian family. As we said, her father was a very respected physician, and her upbringing was very cultured, very comfortable.
As you'd expect.
She liked to go to the theater. Yeah. People tell me I say that word weird.
Theater.
How do you say it?
Theater.
I say theater, and people always make fun of me. But
no, theater.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you're agreeing with me, it means it's wrong. She was also very fond of dancing. One of the artifacts that they definitely have from her childhood, or from her young adult life probably, and maybe even her early married life, were like a pair of petite dancing shoes that were hers. So they have a pair of her dancing shoes. They say she was lively, she was intelligent, very socially well connected. But her life was marked by loss very early on. Her mother died when she was only 3 years old, and then had what I interpreted in my research as a wicked stepmother situation after that. So, I mean, her early grief in multiple ways, all of these things would shape who she became and how her heart was formed for a deep interior life, which is really what she took on as she got older.
Yeah, and I love when you hear these stories of these saints because they're beautiful examples of how God works in the midst of suffering and the trials of life. and can bring such abundant fruit from that. Such graces can flow from that hardship when you're really open to allow God to work in that moment. And everything. I mean, you have Teresa Lisieux lost her parents and the life, that she
Catherine
ended up living.
Drexel's
Catherine
own
Drexel,
mother
right?
died.
And
Yeah.
these are just examples that kind of come to mind about parental loss. But there's a lot of saints that
It's almost
really
like a
suffered.
Disney movie.
Yeah, but it's true.
There's no way this character is two parents. No way.
Right. But it is a beautiful testament to how God works to redeem evil, sin, all of the travails of life, and can bring great good and fruit and blessings from it.
Yeah. So at 19, she married William Seton, who was a successful businessman for a time. We'll get to that in a minute. And they had 5 children. And she and William had what was believed to be a very loving marriage. They were very devoted to each other. And of her 5 children, she called them her 5 darlings, which is what I call my children all the time.
That's what my wife calls me.
So her 5 darlings, she considered them to be her absolute primary obligation before every other commitment. She was truly a mother first before all else.
I really think that this is something that people are forgetting about in our culture today. So it's wonderful to see saints that exhibit, and even though they're doing all of this great work, they never forget their first vocation, right? Their first and primary vocation is as a mother, as a spouse, as a husband, as a father, whoever the person might be. And I remember in my own formation when I was in the diaconate program, that's the one thing that I kept emphasizing over and over again. You're going to be ordained a deacon, but this is not going to be your primary vocation. Your primary vocation has to be to your family. So when we see saints modeling this type of a lifestyle and doing great things in addition to all that, it certainly gives hope for me.
Yeah. Something else that I think gives people hope too is when they hear that saints had interests that they also share.
Yeah.
Right? Like the fact that she liked to dance and that she would go to the theater with her sister, things like that.
Right.
That gives people hope of like, oh, okay, what is it to be a saint? Am I supposed to be, is it like the rosary 24/7 on
Hands and
repeat?
knees.
You can't turn off EWTN or you're going to hell. Like
Right,
that
right.
kind of existence. And so something she enjoyed doing was when her kids would go to bed and when they would be napping during the day, she really enjoyed reading novels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
so-
think that's helpful for people to hear.
I think it is, because you need to hear that sense of normalcy, because when we think about saints, a lot of times we kind of have them up on this pedestal, and that's because every single statue that we have of a saint is up on a pedestal, so it's only natural for us to
Mine
kind
is
of
very high.
Yeah, when we look at them, just elevate them, but to hear how normal they are, and that they like a lot of the same things and did a lot of the same things that we did, and the shared interests and all that, it just makes them, I find, to be a little bit more relatable.
Yeah.
And there could be a connection there. And if there is a connection, then they can begin to serve as a great intercessor.
Yeah. She also was a fan of journaling. A lot of the information that people have about her spirituality, about her relationship with God, came from her journals. And it's very evident that her heart belonged to God first. And so she once wrote in her journal, "The first end I propose in our daily work is to do the will of God. Secondly, to do it in the manner he wills. And thirdly, to do it because it is his will."
Yeah, and I love that, because that's the call of every single baptized disciple in Jesus. To do God's will the way that he wills it, simply because he's God and he wills it. This is why God, we talked about this in the last episode, this is why God shares his divine life with us through grace in order to strengthen us so that we can live according to his will. So this isn't some type of blind obedience. It's obedience that's really rooted in our love and our knowledge of God. And so she's hitting a home run when she's writing all of this stuff.
Even as an Episcopalian, she was a devout Episcopalian. She would attend their liturgies on a
Very
regular
religious.
basis. So she certainly, who she became as a Catholic, started in her Episcopalian faith, which makes perfect sense. I mean, there are good, noble, faithful Christians out there who are not Catholic, but they have a very strong relationship with God. We would say that if you want the fullness of truth, we would want to go in a Catholic direction. But obviously the Episcopalian faith informed how she lived out her Catholicism.
Yeah.
And so, but you're right. It wasn't just about doing what God wants, because we can do that reluctantly and still do, his will. But what benefit is that to us?
Right.
She desired to do it how he would have her do it. That means maybe something like the proper intention or the right disposition, or did you discern the whole thing properly to begin with? And then finally you do it because he's good. And if he wills it, then it must be good.
Yeah.
Because it must reflect who he is.
Yeah, and that's the goal of every disciple, and those who live life this way become saints.
Right. To do the will of God.
Yeah.
Let's move on to her trials and her sufferings. Eventually, her husband's business went bankrupt and the family lost their home. This is when things began to change. And it gets worse because he got tuberculosis, as probably so many people did back then.
And what is tuberculosis known as?
It's a disease of the lungs.
Yeah, but what is it known as?
Well, I mean, you cough up blood. I know
Yeah,
that.
consumption.
Is it consumption? Oh, snap. There you go.
Yes, consumption.
Well, and they were not married. They had 5 children, but they weren't even married a decade by the time that he passed away. And now I'm putting the cart before the horse. But to salvage his health before he eventually passed, there was a hope that maybe like a warmer climate would save his life, would help his condition. So she, her husband, and their oldest daughter moved to Italy with some of his business associates who were over there.
Well,
Talk us through that.
Yeah, so they arrive in like around 1803, actually November 1803. And they were immediately placed under quarantine because it was very contagious and there was really no way to treat it. And so,
gosh, how did Elizabeth not get it?
Well,
It's,
yeah,
and
I
the
mean,
daughter,
so
at that time.
Yeah, I mean, and it was very popular. Like Denise has family that dates back to revolutionary times, and when you go through some of the records, there are some of them that died of tuberculosis and everything. It was very, very common. So imagine this: she's looking to get him out and maybe prolong his life, ease his suffering. They get there in November 1803. They're thrown right into quarantine, and he dies the next month.
Now imagine being 29 with 5 children.
I know. And so
and
Elizabeth finds herself widowed and in a foreign country, far from family, anything familiar. I mean, geez, I can't imagine what that must have been like for her. But in her time of this unthinkable grief, God was definitely not asleep at the wheel. The Italian family, who were business associates of her husband, what was it, the Felici family? They were caring for her, and they were financially helping to support her at that time. And they were Catholic.
This is where everything begins to turn.
And they would come to really influence Elizabeth in a very amazing way.
Yeah. So, I mean, she would see this family attend Mass, celebrate the sacraments, receive the Eucharist in particular, and it deeply convicted her. So there was something about the Eucharist in particular that stirred something deep within her. She would later write, how happy we would be if we believed what we see. The bread of angels is become the bread of men.
Yeah, and this is really what the belief in the real presence will do if we avail ourselves of that truth. Because it's Jesus' body, blood, soul, and divinity, really, truly, substantially present. And we talk about this all the time. It's love that transforms the heart and the mind. And so in the sacrament of the Eucharist, you have Jesus, who is literally giving of himself to us in the form of food so that we can consume him, and through his grace, he can consume us, and we become one. I mean, there's no more intimate encounter this side of heaven. We say this all the time. So I'm not surprised to see that when she was exposed to this, that there was a longing and a stirring in her heart. Yeah. There was a hunger there.
And she would be able to make such good connections, probably earlier than most, because of her Episcopalian experience.
Right.
So I can see how everything for her, being an Episcopalian, would hinge on the Eucharist. Yeah. If this really is Jesus, then that is the ultimate game changer. So the parish that I grew up in as a kid had an Episcopalian church right across the street, and had a sign that was essentially right across the street from the Catholic Church. And they put outside on their sign one day, "Come visit, we're Catholic light." Right outside. I mean, right across from a Catholic church. It incensed my father. Him.
I'm sure.
And he approached the priest after. No, I was little, very, very little. He approached the priest after their liturgy one day, and he just went up to him and he was like, "Hey, you think that's appropriate?" Like, this was when my dad was much younger, much less refined than he is now. And I just looked at my dad being like, wow, he's like a superhero. He's sticking up for what he believes in. And I just thought it was so cool. Because you have that time where your parents can do no wrong.
Right.
And I remember maybe like a couple years ago, I brought that up at the table. And my dad was like, yeah, I should never have done that. That was wildly inappropriate. He's like, it was inappropriate they said it, but I should not have accosted their reverend after their service. And but that's a bold move.
Yeah.
Across the street from a Catholic church.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Okay, so she is convicted about the Catholic faith. She returns to New York in June of 1804, just 6 months after her husband's death, and she was really, really wrestling with whether or not she should swim the Tiber, as they say, right? Make the ultimate jump to Catholicism.
And again, this is only 6 months of living under the influence of the Felici family, and being exposed to Catholic Mass.
And to be a Catholic in America, in New York,
Oh,
at that
boy.
time.
Yep.
I mean, you said it's the time of the American Revolution. So it would have meant losing social standing, friendships, financial support, and opportunities. But the truth is that what she encountered in the Eucharist in particular, it gave her the courage to be received in the Catholic Church in 1805. And unfortunately, many of those familial concerns and social concerns were realized because she was met with a lot of anti-Catholic prejudice.
Sentiment, yeah.
She tried to, in support of her family, she has 5 children, she set up a boarding school for boys. And when the parents found out that she was a Catholic, they withdrew their children. They didn't want them to be taught by her, to associate with her. Yeah. It's very unfortunate. But it allowed for another opportunity that
right.
God had in store.
Again, God working through our trials and tribulations in order to bring something good.
Yeah. So eventually she was invited to Baltimore by the famous Archbishop John Carroll to form a free school for girls down there.
And it's interesting, Archbishop Carroll was the very first and only American bishop at that time. He was it. There was no other bishops. And he oversaw the entire Catholic Church in America. He wasn't just the Bishop of Baltimore, but he was responsible for every Catholic in the newly formed
Colonies of America, or United States of America.
Yes.
Yeah. What year are we in? Yeah,
States,
the United States of America.
Right. In this country, this fledgling country. And he served from 1879 to 1850.
It's an extraordinarily long period of time.
Yeah.
In a young country, to be the only religious authority on this side, that is a substantial thing to do.
It is. So continue.
So the school that she founded for girls was one of the earliest Catholic schools in America. And then, so we say that she really founded...
Was it the earliest?
In my research, it said one of the earliest Catholic schools in America.
Okay.
I can't imagine there's a lot to choose from. How many Catholic schools are there at this time, So in 1809, she moved to Emmitsburg, Maryland, and there she founds a religious order who were known as the Sisters of Charity of St. Joseph's. And this was the first American religious community for women. That is absolutely true. It was the absolute first American religious community for women. And she modeled this community after the Daughters of Charity, who were associated with St. Vincent de Paul, who were founded in the 17th century after St. Vincent de Paul and, I don't want to say it wrong, Louise de Marillac.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so to instruct her sisters, she adopted their rule of life that they followed, the rule.
Now, do you know one of the reasons why she chose the Daughters of Charity to model?
I'm sure it had something to do with the concern for the poor and vulnerable that St. Vincent de Paul had. And she was setting up, a free school for girls. Many of them were orphans, as I understand. So
the charism certainly fit in well, but it was really her spiritual director, who was Father Louis William de Bourgh, who suggested it. He's the one who kind of threw the Daughters of Charity out there for her to consider, because he was really hoping to establish a connection between America and the religious order in France. And the charism of the order, especially that idea of direct ministry to the poor, as opposed to many of the cloistered lifestyles that many of the religious women were living at that time, would better serve Elizabeth's mission. And it's interesting because, like off air, we were kind of talking about this a little earlier. You had mentioned that the Sisters of Charity of St. Joseph, that Elizabeth Ann Seton founded, are no longer in existence. They've been absorbed.
Yeah, not in that form. They were absorbed into that French order that already existed. Yeah. And so from this very humble beginning, this school for girls, this religious order, would become the foundation of the Catholic parochial school system in the United States.
Amen.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And we don't talk about it nearly
No,
enough.
we don't. But we don't talk about her nearly enough.
No, I don't think we do.
Maybe we're biased.
Maybe we do. Maybe they do in Maryland. I don't know. Maybe they talk about her in Maryland the way we do.
Talk about John
Catherine,
Paul,
Catherine Drexel, too.
John,
We're like, this is our girl,
And that's what I was just leading into. I said, maybe we don't talk about her because we're just so overexposed and saturated with John Newman and Drexel here that...
what a problem to have.
Well, I mean, it's
but you're
great.
Right. She was something that those two figures were not. They were not spouses and parents, which I think adds an important dynamic. Right. It's not better or worse. It's just different.
Yeah.
And so when you look at Elizabeth's life, a lot of people would say, wow, she was such a female pioneer. And you could certainly say that, but I don't think that that's what she would say. She would say, well, I was a servant. And she
Which fits in the motto of her order.
Absolutely. Yeah. And she told her sisters, we certainly know, this is a quote, we know certainly that our God calls us to a holy life. We know that he gives us every grace, every abundant grace. How was she able to do what she did? It wasn't like, look at what I achieved. Look at what the human condition is able to produce.
It's what God's doing in her, through her.
Right. I thought that perfectly tied into what we talked about last week.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Elizabeth got it. She understood how God was working in her life, and she was willingly cooperating with it. She was participating
In the face of tragedy, in the face of the unknown,
Everything.
in the face of confusion, in the face of disease and sickness, right? Financial struggles. She dealt with all of it.
Yeah, and this was really, I mean, this amounts to her personal testimony. God doesn't really call the equipped. He equips those he calls. We hear that saying a lot, and God called Elizabeth, and she answered in the face of all this tragedy and adversity that you alluded to. Yeah, I mean, this is what we're all called to do. We're all called to do this, right?
And she did it not
will we
so...
rise to the call?
Yeah, she did it not so long ago, too. I mean, if you think about, we talked about St. Augustine the first time we did like a real saint deep dive. And he's what, 4th century, right? 3rd, 4th century?
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. She is somebody who lived the life of a saint, and it's only what? About 250 years ago?
Yeah.
That's important for us to know, that this was really not so long ago, right? She may have lived in a different way than we live today, but not so different that she can't relate. Yeah. What is her saintly legacy? What does her holiness share with us? And where did her holiness come from? It came from that servant's heart. It came from that faithfulness. She was devout in her love for God and her family. She was compassionate towards those who were underprivileged, and she directed her charism for teaching to the benefit of the wider community, particularly women, children in need, orphans, right? People who were often forgotten about. And she endured poverty, illness. In addition to the loss of her husband, she also had to endure the heartbreaking death of her oldest child in 1812, and then her youngest child in 1816. And yet she remained rooted in hope. I think about that very famous hymn, "It Is Well With My Soul." I'd love to know in what year that was written. I wonder if it was around the same time. But I think about that as I was reflecting on her life in preparation for this. I just thought, it is well with her soul. You're not happy about it.
Right.
It's not what you would ever have designed for yourself in your life. In the same way that the author of that song, the lyricist at least, his whole family died on a boat, right? Is that not what happened?
I don't know.
I'm pretty
story.
sure. I'm pretty sure. And from that tragedy came that hymn of "It Is Well With My Soul." But it's a whatever God wills. Not that he wills the death, but how will his will work in and through this? Yeah. Right.
Do you know what her daughters died from?
I'm sure it was tuberculosis.
It was, yeah. It was tuberculosis.
Listen, if it wasn't the TB, it was the cholera.
Right.
And if it wasn't the cholera, it was the... I don't know. There's only a few things that people died from back then. None of this is funny, but it was one or the other.
Yeah, no, it was tuberculosis.
Yeah. So she wrote of being separated from her loved ones. She wrote, "The accidents of life separate us from our dearest friends, but let us not despair. God is like a looking glass." Oh, God, I love this. "God is like a looking glass in which they are reflected." I mean, think about that. Think about that next time you go to Mass.
Yeah.
It reminded me of what you said. You're never closest to your loved ones than when you attend Mass.
That's St. Teresa of Lisieux, who reminds us of that in her writings.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful sentiment because
and it's biblical. What did Paul say? We have not lost. Oh, what does he say?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
right.
But you can't.
But this isn't something that just kind of developed over time. This is with the early Christian understanding, and I think we've just lost it over time. We don't realize the depth of a connection. But when we receive Holy Communion, all of heaven comes to us because this is the unification of the body of Christ in the Mass. I go to Mass. My father's there. My grandparents are there in that reception of Holy Communion. There's a oneness. There's a bond there that takes place. So, and that's truth with a capital T. Right. And so that's the beauty of all that. Yeah.
So then eventually Elizabeth dies. Not a particularly long life, but I suppose as long as many people that day. She died at 46.
Yeah. Most people did live long lives, though.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. What was the life expectancy in 1805? Or when did she die? What year?
People did live long. Yeah, I mean, you can look it up, but I know because I'm a genealogist for the family. I've done all the research.
I know because I've look how long I've lasted.
Because I'm still here.
I was born in.
I'm still here.
I want to know. What was the life expectancy in the 19th century?
Life expectancy increased significantly over the 19th century, from about 35 years in 1800 to 47 years in 1900.
Oh. How about that?
Wow. Repeat after me. I'm sorry, Christine.
I'm sorry, Christine.
I
shouldn't have doubted you.
Oh, I make all these genealogies, and I gotta.
I come from better stock than you. That's all it is.
The Muellers have been around. When did the Muellers get here?
1905.
Oh, I knew you would know. I knew it.
Yeah, 1905.
Couldn't tell you anything about.
Okay, I'm sorry for the interruption, but go ahead. Continue.
I'm not sorry at all. This is what I wish happened more on the podcast. And to be fair, people have told me that these are their favorite parts. So, okay. So she dies at the age of 46, right on the money of 47 years old.
Yes.
just like, unfortunately, her husband and her 2 daughters. Gosh, every time we're talking about death, we're laughing. But getting back to the point, her life bears witness to the truth that holiness does not require extraordinary circumstances, only extraordinary trust.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what faith is. Trust in what had been revealed. And that began in her Episcopalian upbringing, and that continued in her belief in the Eucharist.
Right.
She trusted that the Eucharist was true. And if that is true, the only option is the Catholic faith at that point. And so her yes to conversion, her yes to education changed America in ways that largely go unacknowledged. Her legacy includes religious congregations in the United States and Canada, whose members still work to meet the needs. They operate her shrine down in Emmitsburg, Maryland, and they still work to meet the needs of people living in poverty in North America and beyond. She's canonized in 1975 by Pope Paul VI, and you can go visit her. Her tomb, she is entombed right down there in Maryland.
Is she in like a tomb? I can't remember.
She is in a tomb. In fact,
so you can't see her or anything like that. It's just
I'll
like
show
a
you
crypt,
exactly what
like
it looks
St. Catherine Drexel.
it looks exactly.
Well, you can show me, but that doesn't benefit
Well, I'm
everybody
going to put it
who's
on.
listening.
I actually thought I would put it on the. I can't find it now.
The
But I
cover.
pulled it up this morning when we had gone there. We were there in 2017.
Oh, okay.
And I found a nice picture of her shrine. So I think that's going to be our little logo for this
Cover?
episode.
Good.
But yeah, it looks very much like Catherine Drexel.
Oh,
It's
okay.
bigger. Her place is much, much bigger. I think they have a much larger. Well, Catherine Drexel's shrine also closed for the most part. Now it's downtown. It's not far from Mount St. Mary.
I think maybe to kind of bring things to a close, there's this prayer that is written by Elizabeth that we can share. And this is the prayer. Lord Jesus, who was born for us in the stable, lived for us in a life of pain and sorrow, and died for us upon a cross. Save for us in the hour of death. Father, forgive. And to your mother, behold your child. Say to us, this day you shall be with me in paradise.
It's so, I love
simple,
that. I love that. I
right?
love it. You have the words of the father, of the mother.
It's simple, it's real, it's honest. And
It's
again,
written in English. There's no translation
Right.
too. So like, it's just nice to hear somebody communicate in their, and can you even say native language? Can you say native anymore?
Yeah.
Okay. In their original language, and to know that they spoke your language, which is nice too.
But this is an easy prayer to kind of commit to memory.
It is.
So
I
does
love
it-
these quotes. Oh, God.
Did it have a particular? Does this prayer have a particular name? Do you know?
No, it was
just,
from her journaling.
Okay.
I mean,
Well-
it could. Nothing that I came across.
Well, the nice thing about it, if any listeners kind of, I like that prayer, go back and listen to it, write it down.
This
right?
in preparing for this, I mean, the National Shrine's website was very helpful. And
okay.
This is stuff that this wasn't just these weren't pieces I stumbled on. This is what they offer you from
Oh,
her
good.
writing.
So you can
'cause
go
they've
right
done
to the
research.
national website
Yeah,
for
you can
Elizabeth
get
Ann
daily
Seton.
updates from Elizabeth Ann Seton, like from her, the way that you can have like a gospel meditation emailed to you every day. You can get something about her life emailed to you every day.
that's neat.
Or from her writing, something like that.
Imagine if we would have thought that a year ago, all the information we'd have by now.
Oh man, my head is only so big. So here are some quotes too. I absolutely loved these quotes, and the last one to me just takes the cake. She says here, one of her very famous quotes that probably nobody knows: "Confiding hope and consoling peace have attendeth my way through the storms and dangers that must have terrified a soul whose rock is not Christ." I mean, that the language is even like that hymn. It is well with my soul when peace like a river attends my way. It's very similar. So I cannot imagine she did not know that.
Yeah.
She also says, do what we can and God will do the rest. Almost sounds like you, Mr. Mueller.
Right.
What seems so impossible to nature is quite easy to grace. Phenomenal.
Right.
And then here's my favorite. The black clouds, which she had many. She experienced a lot of pain and
Oh, yeah.
suffering. The black clouds I foresee may pass by harmless. Or if in providence of grace they fall on me. Providence has an immense umbrella to hinder or break the force of the storm. What a comfort. The umbrella of providence.
Yeah.
That is inspired.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
You know, again, for all of you who are listening, you know, it's nice to learn about these saints, because sometimes hearing the lives and thing that's going on, they help us to kind of see that holiness really is attainable. Because at the end of the day, you and I are called to be holy. You and I are called to be saints. If heaven is our destination, sainthood is the way to do that. And we cannot do that all on our own. We can only do that through the grace of God. And when you see somebody like Elizabeth, who is kind of going through all of these things that many of us experience in our own lives, loss and tragedy and suffering. And you see how she's able to use the grace that God provides her and her gifts and her talents to be able to love God fully in response and to love others. That's the path to holiness.
Yeah.
Right? But we cannot do this alone. We need God's grace. We need God's divine life in order to help us to become who it is that he's created us to be. And so hopefully you've been a little inspired, and or at least a little bit more informed about this little-known saint. At least she's little known up here in our region. People down in Baltimore might be like, yeah, like we talk about her every day. I don't know. But it is interesting. I mean, she's really a juggernaut in terms of the founding of Catholic education here.
And her own little way.
Yeah.
So much of her reminds me of the little way.
And I think
Therese.
that's one of the reasons why she's overlooked, because it is just such a simple little way. She just had a very ordinary lifestyle, very quiet, I should say, not ordinary, but quiet. And I think it's something that's easily overlooked.
But people were so attracted to her. I mean, like, women came to participate in her order very quickly.
Well, that's holiness.
So, I mean, if you're
Right.
holy,
you're
people
attracted.
notice.
People are attracted to holiness.
People also hate you. That's another part of the story.
That's
but
the other flip side, right? Yeah.
people will also come. The people who God has called to come to your aid. Come to your aid.
Right.
All right, we'll see you next week.
All right, God bless.